back in black with another Enlisted video. If you guys are new to the channel and you love shooting games just like me, make sure you aim for that like button and shoot that subscribe button as well. It'll help you find better teammates and improve your skill-based matchmaking. At least I hope so. In this video, we're going to be covering all the shotguns in Enlisted with no particular order in mind. Shotguns in video games have always been kind of hard to balance as they consistently teeter on the fence top of being too good or completely useless. I don't see them much in the game compared to my first couple of years playing Enlisted, and I do remember them being nerfed substantially, so clearly they were amazing at one point. And I figured in this video I would just give them all a detailed look and see if they are currently in need of a buff to improve their usage rate or sitting pretty exactly where they are right now, and maybe people are just kind of asleep on them. As a sidebar, I am doing all the shotguns in one video since, each faction doesn't have enough shotguns to warrant separate videos. But anyhow, starting with the Japanese, they only get one shotgun, and I'm pretty sure the only reason they do is in order to keep them balanced with the USA from a close range perspective, but ever so conveniently they get their hands on the exported version of the Browning Auto 5 shotgun, which is probably going to be the most satisfying shotgun in the tech tree to use for a few reasons. First is going to be the fact that the FN Browning has the highest damage out of all shotguns in the game at a maximum of 47.7 if you hit all your pellets at extremely close range, which in my personal opinion is going to be considered 0 to 20 meters. Reason I mention extreme close range is because the damage drop off on shotties is just as extreme, considering that once you get out to about 40 meters the damage will be halved at 23.9. So not that any of you who have played a shooting game before don't know this, but the range capability of this weapon type is going to be very limited to keep it from getting out of hand. But they do excel in scenarios that you would expect them to, mainly fighting over trenches and buildings. But anyways, getting back into the stats, the bullet velocity on the FN Browning clocks in at 200 meters per second, which is actually going to be pretty standard for shotguns as far as the weapon class is concerned. So in general, I'll try not to mention it again, but 200 is a pretty low number, so what that means is that you'll have to lead your targets a fair bit if they are moving horizontally across your screen and not in barrel stuffing distance. The rate of fire on the FN Browning is tied for first best in the weapon category at 240 rounds per minute, but despite it being tied, I would argue that objectively it is the best despite what is being shown on paper, because its counterparts is basically going to be the double barrel shotguns in the game, which you have to spend more time reloading those regardless of the fire rate. Speaking of reloading, the amount of time that it'll take for you to go from empty to fully loaded on the FN Browning is going to be 3.6 seconds, so it will pay dividends for you to invest in the reload speed perk for your soldier if you do plan on running this shotgun or any shotgun at a consistent rate, since you'll be loading those shells just as often as you should be building rally points, and that's also considering the fact that you only have a maximum of 5 shots per reload, which is better than a double barrel again, but still pretty low in a game where you generally have to shoot squads of people. Another stat that's going to be standard on all shotguns except for one of them is going to be the shot deviation, which on the FN and 4 others is going to be popping in at 90, and that's pretty high, basically up there with some of the faster firing submachine guns in the game, so it's going to be pretty bad if you don't take your time between shots when it makes sense to do so. I would say this is even more imperative to pay attention to on shotguns with your limited range and ammo capacity, and I would also say this only matters on semi-auto shotguns, but we are also getting a recoil control percentage of 50% to help you stay on target, which is good since this is the only shotgun where you can shoot it repeatedly without having to do any type of action to load another shell into the barrel. However, I would argue that if you're using shotguns in the appropriate ranges, recoil won't be much of a factor to begin with, so it's just something that I wanted to note there. Iron sights on the FN Browning are also pretty favorable, and I have no issue lining up my targets and tracking them, even if I want to tube tap people out the medium range as well, which should be pretty easy with this weapon. moving on to our first pump action shotgun of the day, we shall now take a look at the USA's Winchester Model 1912, which is a later model from the 1897 version. This one, on the other hand, has an external 2 magazine which allows for 6 shells fully loaded, making this the go-to choice for bullet capacity if you like that in your shotgun. Unfortunately, we do lose our anomaly damage stat as we go down to a maximum of 46.8 provided you hit all your pellets, and even out to 40 meters that damage will also get halved down to 23.4. This will be a repeated damage value for the rest of the shotguns on the list, so I will try not to mention it again. But in regard to the rate of fire on the Winchester, that is coming in at a lower stat of 140 rounds per minute. But what I would like to mention again is, although the double barrel is listed as putting more rounds downrange per minute, once again you only get 2 shots before you have to reload, so that constant reloading, I would say, definitely cuts into the rate of fire, even though it doesn't say so on paper, because you won't be doing as much shooting as you will be doing reloading. So you really could say that the rate of fire on the pump action is higher if you think about it. Anyways, the reload speed on the Winchester is a smidge faster than the FN Browning at 3.5 seconds, but I don't think that's something that anybody would really notice in game. However, on the other hand, something a lot of you may notice and take exception to is how bad the iron sights on this gun are, making it somewhat hard to tell where the majority of your bullets are going to go, aside from just lining up the barrel at a close range target, which is doable, but also kind of a shame because in real life the sights do have a little bead on the front, which makes it way easier to tell where your pellets are going to go, in that 10 to 15 meter range. So perhaps that is something that they could take a look at as far as like adjusting the iron sights and making them more, I guess, easy to use, if not more realistic. I would also be remiss not to mention the fact that you can't slam fire the weapon either, which would be a pretty cool feature to have in those situations where you get a lot of people lined up in front of you. So perhaps that is also something that they could take a look at implementing as well. Something I didn't mention on the FN Browning, but I feel could apply to every shotgun, is that it is very cheap to upgrade them, so I would at least recommend doing the 1-star upgrade to increase the reload speed on these pump action shotguns. This will be more apparent on the double barrels as well, as far as like needing the reload speed, but we will talk about that in a little bit. Coming up for our third shotgun of the day is going to be the homemade version, or I guess the domestic version of the Browning Auto 5, but for some odd reason this one is even weaker than the Japanese version, as it has a damage right in line with the rest of the other shotguns at a maximum of 46.8. But what's even more weird is that the American version also has a slower reload speed, albeit by only 0.1 seconds at 3.6 as compared to 3.5, as if the Americans wouldn't receive better training on the weapon. Weird, but essentially unnoticeable. Another thing that's weirdly biased but shouldn't have a huge impact is the worse recoil on the American Browning, with a vertical recoil of 105 and a horizontal recoil of 45, compared to the FN version, which has a 98 vertical and 42 horizontal respectively. Again, I'm not complaining, I just found that to be a little funny that Japan literally gets the same gun but somehow theirs is better for whatever reason. But since this is essentially a copy and paste weapon, I wanted to take some of this extra time and explain why you should upgrade your shotguns for those who haven't, taken an in-depth look at it. So like I previously mentioned, at 1 star for all shotguns, you get a 10% reduction to your reload speed, which, once you finish all your yellow upgrades for a weapon, that should only cost you a mere 200 silver, and it's probably the most important upgrade any shotgun could need aside from more damage per pellet, which is something you will receive after your 2-star upgrade, which will be consisting of a 15% reduction to your shot deviation, which isn't as huge as the reload speed, but still pretty big as far as like upgrades is concerned, since that will be grouping your pellets tighter than they were before, and that will let you fire the weapon as fast as you can without, I guess receiving a significant penalty to your spread in general. And of course the last upgrade is the best, providing you with a 10% bonus to your hit power, which will bring those shotguns ever so closer to how they felt pre-nerf. Definitely noticeable, and the 3-star upgrade alone makes them 5 times more fun to use in general, if I do say so myself. Taking a break from the semi-autos and the pump action shotguns, we shall now take a look at our first double barrel, which this one in particular has been hailed as the most finely finished and luxurious survival rifle ever issued to a military force. We are looking at Germany's one and only shotgun, the M30 Luftwaffe Drilling, which was a triple-barreled shotgun issued to the aforementioned Luftwaffe pilots to survive in the African wilderness if they were ever shot down. But like I alluded to earlier, the thing with the double barrel shotguns is that on paper the rate of fire is listed to be just as good as the Browning Auto 5 at 240 rounds per minute, but I find that stat to be null and void or very misleading, since you only have 2 shells at your disposal before you are forced to wait 3.4 seconds at base level while you pray not to get, shot in retaliation. That 3.4 seconds is referring to the reload speed, by the way, for anybody who didn't catch it. But as a result, much in the same vein as a bolt action rifle, even more emphatically you want to focus on your positioning when you are using this weapon, and try your hardest to play around cover and be more methodical with not only your shots but just in general when you expose yourself to the enemy. Even more so, it's important to have maxed out reload speed, not only on the gun but also on your soldiers, because basically this weapon is not very practical to use in a World War II setting. It can still be put to good work and look at it and sound aesthetically pleasing doing so, But in order to have like great performances, or I guess even decent to good performances using this weapon, you want to move about the map in a way that basically exposes you as little as possible, but also helps you close the distance to the enemy, because you won't be doing anything effective if you are outside of 40 meters, as we previously mentioned. I would also say that the iron sights on this shotgun is probably the easiest to use out of all shotguns in general. My only and biggest issue with this weapon is the unforgivable fact that we can't even use the third barrel on this weapon, so it just kind of breaks my heart that they would go out of their way to mention it in the description, but again, not go out of their way to include the functionality of us using the third rifle barrel as well, which would make this weapon, I guess, a lot more novel and a lot more fun to use, if I do say so myself. Coming up for our 5th shotgun and our only other double barrel shotgun of the day, we shall now take a look at the Russian counterpart to the M30 drilling, which is going to be a lightweight pre-war hunting shotgun called the Toz-B. I couldn't find much lore information about this weapon online, which is always kind of a bummer, but looking at the stats, I would say the most important thing to know is the reload speed, sitting at 3.9 seconds, damn near 4 seconds, which is surprisingly not even the worst reload speed out of all the shotguns in the game. But it does go to show how imperative it is that you upgrade the stat not only on the gun, but also on your soldier, lest you suffer from reload speeds akin to a machine gun. And I'm mostly stressing this if you want to get continued use out of your Toz-B without handicapping yourself in any, meaningful fashion. But another important thing to look at in regard to this weapon is the environments that you will be using it in. It is kind of a niche weapon from a Russian perspective, because a lot of their maps do consist of open fields, but once you get to like a Stalingrad map, or once you reach the urban section of a Moscow, or I guess all of Berlin is pretty urban except for Silo Heights, the viability goes up immensely. And since most of the German submachine guns have BR1 lack fire rate up close, the Toz-B is still actually pretty fun to use. So if you skipped over it, I would recommend going back and upgrading it, and yeah, putting those in your squad as soon as possible to get those satisfying one-hit kills off. The iron sights on the Toz-B are also pretty favorable. I would say second best in the tier, making it pretty easy to get a good lead on my targets and waste as little ammo as possible. Coming up last but not least, we now gotta take a look at our last pump shotgun, the Ithaca 37, which funnily enough is a shotgun model based on an old patent from John Browning, which originally was going to be called the Remington Model 17. This gun was made to directly compete with the previously mentioned Winchester 1912, and not only is this the longest production run for a shotgun in history, this is also the only pre-World War II shotgun that is still in production to this day. Despite the cool factor of all the lore, in game this shotgun is among the lower half as far as the stats are concerned. Reason being, we're getting an even lower fire rate than the Winchester at 130 rounds per minute as opposed to 140, which isn't too bad, but wait, there's more. I also have to mention that this shotgun only has a 4-round magazine capacity in comparison to the Winchester 6, and I mean, it's better than a double barrel at the end of the day, but you're still going to be reloading often whether you do it on empty or partially full, so I would recommend pressing square or X or R any chance you get to avoid running out of bullets or shells mid-fight. Aside from capacity, another reason I highly recommend reloading on partially full whenever you get the chance is because the empty reload speed on this guy is coming in at a ghastly 5.4 seconds, which is indubitably the worst reload speed out of any shotgun in the game, alongside the lowered fire rate. And by that logic, that would mean this is actually the most important shotgun for you to upgrade as far as the yellow tree is concerned. But despite all those negative traits that I just listed, something that the Ithaca does alone is come out of the box with a best in weapon class shot deviation at 80 as opposed to 90, which basically means the shot spread on this is going to be way better by default, and once you upgrade it to 2 stars or 3 stars, then basically it's going to feel like the most tightly compact shotgun in the game, which is actually pretty good, bringing your shot deviation all the way down to 68, which yeah, pretty outstanding if I do say so myself. But overall though, like I said earlier in the video, there's not enough shotguns for each faction to do a proper ranking, but if you asked me out of all 6 of these which was my favorite, I would definitely choose the FN Browning Auto 5, kind of like I alluded to earlier in the video as well. But I will say all of them are pretty fun to use once you like acclimate your playstyle, and then once you actually upgrade the shotguns, that feeling becomes squared and cubed if you take the time to grind those yellow upgrades so you can increase your reload speed, tighten your spread, and buff up that hit power as well to bring those shotguns even closer, or ever so closer I should say, to how they felt pre-nerf. But then again, these are just my opinions at the end of the day. I am actually more curious to know what you guys are thinking about the shotguns down there in the comment section. First, out of all 6 of these shotguns, which is your favorite? Let me know down in the comment section. And while you're down there, I am also interested to know, do you guys think shotguns need a buff? Do you think they need a nerf? Do you think they are fine exactly where they are right now? Let me know what you feel and let me know why. And yeah, I guess other than that, I do appreciate you guys for watching. Don't forget to aim for that like button, shoot that subscribe button as well. Hope you find better teammates and quickly skill-based matchmaking as well. And yeah, thanks for watching. Black Guy out.